Let me say the quiet part out loud. The thing that you've been carrying so long that it stopped feeling like a wound and started feeling like furniture. You still love Jesus, but you just can't do church right now. And every Sunday that comes around, there is this tug or guilt or maybe grief, and you push it down and you tell yourself that everything is fine, that you're not backslidden, that you didn't lose your faith in some dramatic blow up and nothing burned down. It just went quiet. And the fire went out inside of you, and you couldn't tell me the day it happened if I paid you. So I want you to hear me on this, because this is the first thing I'm going to say on this relaunch. And I want it to be the truest thing that you heard from a pulpit in years. I'm not here to sell you a show. I'm here to introduce you, or maybe reintroduce you, to a person and then to a people, the real Jesus, the real church that he died to build, and not the counterfeit you walked away from, the real thing. See, this is Discipleship Decoded, and to be honest, we went quiet for a while too, and I'm not going to pretend like we didn't, but we didn't come back to do more of the same. We came back because there is a whole generation of men standing exactly where you're standing, close enough to the faith to still ache for it, but far enough from the church to never want to walk back through the doors, and nobody's talking to them like men. Nobody's telling them the truth. So that's what this is. The lies the culture handed the church, we're going to name them one at a time and take them to the cross and hand you back the real thing, the full weight of the gospel with nothing shaved off to make it sell. So I want you to pull up a chair, because this first one is about you. Now let me describe you, and you tell me how I got in your house. See, you're the man who shows up, and when you show up and you shake the hands and you grab the lukewarm coffee in the lobby and you nod through the set and you leave, and not one person in that building knows your name past Sunday. Not really. You got 100 acquaintances but 0 friends, and you're starving for brotherhood, and you learn to live on small talk. Or maybe you're the man who left, and you didn't leave because you stopped believing. You left because somebody you trusted in that house burned you, and the silence afterward told you everything. Church hurt. We're going to say those 2 words plainly on this show, because half of you have never heard a pastor admit that it is real. It is real, and it happened to you, and I'm not going to flinch from it. Or maybe you're the man who's deconstructing, pulling the whole thing apart in your hands at 1 a.m. and asking which parts were Jesus and which parts were just America, just the brand, the machine. And you're scared that if you keep pulling, there won't be anything left. Well, let me tell you right now, pull hard, because the real Jesus has survived every honest question ever asked of him, and he's not nervous about your questions. And under all of it, whether you stayed or whether you left or whether you're somewhere in between, there is a deeper thing that most of you, no man ever poured into you. Nobody ever discipled you. Nobody ever sat across from you and said, here's how you walk this out, son. Let me show you. Nobody affirms you. No older man ever looked you in your eyes and told you who you were or who you could become. All you ever got was handed down a counterfeit version of manhood. Be hard, be paid, be unbothered, never need anybody. And you wore that like a coat that's 2 sizes too small, and you wondered why you couldn't breathe. So let me name the counterfeit, because you can't get free from a thing you can't see clearly. See, somewhere along the way, they took the most dangerous, life-rearranging movement in human history, a crucified carpenter walking out of his own grave, and they shrink-wrapped it. They turned it into a product. Lights, fog, a merch table, a charismatic man, and expensive sneakers telling you your best life is one more seed offering away. See, they gave you a brand and called it a body. They gave you a show and called it worship. And they gave you a platform and called it a shepherd. And here's the trick of it. It wasn't all fake. That's what made it so easy to swallow. See, there was real music in there. Real moments that you felt something, but feeling on Sunday that is gone by Tuesday isn't discipleship, it's a sugar high. And you've been running on sugar highs for years, wondering why you're still hungry. So let me put it where you can see it. Imagine a man who is starving. I mean, genuinely starving, and somebody hands him a glossy photograph of a steak. Beautiful picture, sizzle, the grill marks, the works, and he is so hungry that he holds it to his chest and he stares at it, he frowns at it, and he wonders why he keeps getting weaker. Because you can't eat a picture of a meal, and a whole lot of you got sold a picture of Christianity that is a high-resolution photograph of a Jesus that you were never invited to actually eat with, to know, to follow, to be fathered by. See, you weren't crazy for walking away from the photograph. The mistake would be thinking that the photograph was all that there was. And the manhood they sold you, the same counterfeit, different owl, they told you that a man is what he produces, what he conquers, what he can carry out without flinching, provide, perform, project. And for God's sake, never let him see you bleed. And so you built the whole thing, and you stood in the middle of it at 2 a.m. with nobody calling, realizing that you become a fortress with no door. Stall on every wall, but nobody's inside. That's not manhood, man. That is a well-defended loneliness. So let me introduce you to the one that they cropped out of the photograph. See, the night before they killed him, he had every right to be thinking about himself. Listen to what he says to a room full of rough, unfinished men. John chapter 15, verse 15, Christian Standard Bible says, I do not call you servants anymore because a servant doesn't know what his master is doing. I have called you friends because I have made known to you everything that I heard from my Father. John chapter 15, verse 15. See, he called them friends. See, the real Jesus looks at the very men that everybody else used, discarded, and he called them friends. Not fans, not followers in the cheap sense, not staff, friends. And he let them all the way in, and he told them everything. So you said you're starving for a real friend. One man you know and still ride for you. I need you to understand that the hunger itself is a clue. That ache was put in you by the one who made you for that. And he offered it to you first before any man ever did or didn't. Mark chapter 1, verse 17, he says, follow me. Jesus told them, I will make you fish for people. He didn't say clean up and follow. He didn't say get your theology tight, fix your record, lose the let, and then come. He said, follow, present tense, as is, mid-mess, and I will make you. And the making happens on the road, walking with him. That's discipleship, not a class you graduate, a road that you walk next to somebody who already knows the way. And to the man who is reading this just flat out tired, so tired of carrying the fortress, tired of the mass, he says the thing that the brand could never say because the brand needed you striving. Come to me, all of you are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take up my yoke and learn from me because I am lowly and humble in heart, and I will find you rest for your souls. Lowly and humble. And I will find rest for your souls, Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 through 29. Lowly and humble in heart. The realest man who ever lived described himself in 2 words that Counterfeit told you to be ashamed of. That's your Jesus. Not the one on the billboard, but this one. And now I have to tell you why any of this can be trusted, because if I told you he's your friend and never told you what that friendship costs. See, here's the center of everything that this show will ever say. You don't have a church problem. At the bottom, you have a sin problem. Same as me, same as every other man who lived. Real sin, the kind that put a wall between you and a holy God that no amount of showing up, cleaning up, or manning up could ever tear down. And the ways on that paycheck, he says, is death. I'm talking about separation from God forever. See, you couldn't fix it. I couldn't fix it, so God did. But God proves his own love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us according to Romans chapter 5, verse 8 in the CSB version. And while you were still in it, not after you got it together, while you were still wearing the mask, still dodging church, still deconstructing in the dark, that's when he moved. Watch the order, because it's the whole gospel. He went first. He says, for I pass on to you the most important, what I also received, that Christ died for our sins according to the scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he was raised on the third day according to the scriptures. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, according to the scriptures. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 3-4 in the CSB version again. See, he died, a real man on a real Roman cross, real nails, real blood, taking the verdict that had your name on it. He was buried, cold, sealed in a tomb, all the way dead, and on the third day he got up bodily. His heart was beating again. He walked out of the grave in front of hundreds of witnesses who touched him, who ate with him, and then died, refusing to say it didn't happen. So that's not a metaphor, man. That's not live your truth. That's an event in history that splits your life into before and after the moment you believe it. He paid the wage, and he beat the grave, but he's offering you what was bought with that blood, which is exactly why no man can sell it to you and no man can revoke it. Repent, believe, turn and trust the one who already came, and he got you. Now stay with me, because here's where it gets personal. For the man who has never been fathered, when you come to Jesus, you don't just get forgiven, you get adopted. I want you to hear that for a second. He says, for you did not receive a spirit of slavery to fall back in fear, but instead you received the spirit of adoption, by whom we cry, Abba, Father, according to Romans chapter 8:15 CSB. See, you spent your whole life a hole shaped like a father. Maybe yours was gone. Maybe there was one in the house, but he was 1,000 miles away in his eyes. Maybe he handed you a counterfeit manhood himself, because it was the only thing that he was ever handed. And you've been performing ever since, trying to earn affirmation from men who were never going to give it, because they didn't have it to give. The gospel says the affirmation that you've been chasing from men was always supposed to come down from a father. And the day that you trust Christ, that father looks at you, scars, record, mask it all, and he doesn't call you an employee. He doesn't call you a project. He calls you a son. And he's not the kind of father who shows up when you perform. He's the kind of father that will run down the road while you're still a long way off, still smelling like the pig pen. You were never fathered, I know. So let the Father father you. Everything this show does, every Wednesday in the Huddle, and every word of the speed is downstream of that one truth. You are a son now. Start walking like one. And a son in this family does not walk alone. That's the last lie I want to pull off the table tonight. The one that's been killing you the quietest. The counterfeit manhood that told you that you don't need nobody. Be a fortress. Carry it solo. And the church as a show lets you, because the show doesn't need you to be known. It just needs you to be in a seat. So you learn to do faith like you do everything else. Alone. Manage it. But the book that calls it what it is a trap. Two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their efforts. If either falls, his companion can lift them up. But pity is the one who falls without another to lift them up. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 9-10 and verse 12. So pity the one who falls with nobody to lift them up. That's not a soft sentiment. That's a warning with your name on it. The enemy doesn't need much to take you down, man. And he doesn't need much to take a man who fights alone. But 3 strands wound together, you can't snap that. And a brother and the Spirit of God braided into one cord. The enemy pulls and pulls and pulls, but he can't break it. It's not just comfort, it's how you get sharpened. Iron sharpens iron. One person sharpens another. Proverbs chapter 27, verse 17. And you don't get sharp by watching a string. You get sharp when a real man gets close enough to grind against you. Close enough to tell you the truth that you don't really want to hear. And stay in the room after he does. So that's brotherhood. Not acquaintances, not lobby handshake, men who know your real name and ride for you anyway. So you said it yourself. Does anybody actually want to know me? Well, here's the answer, and I mean it. Yes, we do. And that's the whole reason the table exists. So let me tell you exactly what you're signing up for so there is no fog. Every week, we're going to take one lie, one counterfeit the culture slipped into the church, and we're going to hold it up to the light of the gospel, decode this, and we'll quote the lie on its own words, and we'll be honest about the grain of truth that's in it, because there usually is one. And we going to win by lying about the lie, and then we'll take it to the cross and we'll hand it back to you, the real thing. No fog machine, no seed offering, no fake manhood, no Greek lecture to make you feel small. Just a man in the chair talking to one man in a chair, telling you the truth that somebody should have told you 20 years ago. And this is the barbershop, not the boardroom. You can take off the mask here. Nobody's filming you. Well, somebody's filming me. But you can finally exhale. So here's where I leave you on this relaunch. 2 moves. The personal one. Tonight before you sleep, I don't want you to rededicate anything in some dramatic church way. I just want you to talk to him plain. Say it the way you'd say it to a friend, because that's what he called you. Jesus, I still want you. I just couldn't do his show anymore. And if you're real and not the brand, meet me here. And that is a prayer that was never once ignored. So community, that's not humility, it's the trap. Come find the table. The huddle is where we do this on purpose. Real men, no mask, iron on iron, the cord of 3 strands, and it is the on-ramp into Metamorphosis Church, the body that I'm planting for exactly this. A Christ-centered, gospel-centered church with none of the commercialism that ran you off. This is the relaunch, and so this is your way in. Don't just watch the stream of Brotherhood. Get in the water. You still love Jesus. You just couldn't do church, the show. I get it. Neither can I. So let's not do the counterfeit. Let's build the real thing together. The real Jesus, the real Father, real brothers, and a real church worth belonging to, okay? Welcome back or welcome home. Either way, you're home now. This is Discipleship Decoded, because the gospel does not invite you to a brand. It invites you to a brotherhood, a father, and a real Jesus. I'm Pastor Malden Mitchell, and I will see you next time.